Hey everybody, welcome to North Node Through the Houses. So, your North Node is all about what you're meant to do in this life, where you're starting from and moving towards. This could be midlife, usually after the age of 40, 50 or so. So, I don't know what age you guys are, but I would love to hear if it's relatable for you. um, your south node. North node is this horseshoe symbol right here. An easy way to find that is by going to astro-charts.com. I'll put that in the description box. But if you haven't seen my midheaven introduction, it's up here above. You guys might want to watch that video so I can walk you through a tutorial of getting your birth chart information in an easy way, because it really just uh, isn't. It's a simple chart with words more so telling you where your planets are, and it gives you a little bit more insight into your information. Okay, so with that, I just want to mention before we get started that when we're going through the houses, it's not necessarily your sign. Your sign will be different. Well, it will actually give you more information about the house that your North Node falls in. So look to your sign and get more information about what that sign means if you don't already know, to find out a little bit more about what the lesson in this life is you're meant to learn. Okay? And then lastly, if you're looking for somebody to be compatible with, as crazy as some people think it is when you ask for their birth time, location, and all their information, finding out that they have a same North Node as you is very indicative of compatibility. So I think it's even more so than, matching sun signs or rising signs. I think the North Node, you're on the same path together. Or even if it's opposites attract and their South Node is in the same house as your North Node, that can be where you guys have a lot to learn from each other, maybe almost like a karmic relationship. So I think this will be really fun because I have looked up a lot of my closest friends and we all have the same North Node signs. And that tells me a lot about why they're my soul sisters. All right. So please, I'd love to hear in the comments if this feels relatable to you. And let's get going. First house, Aries. Your sign, of course, may not be Aries with the North Node, but if you are in the first house, this is all about independence. You're coming away from the opposite house. This would be where your South Node is. So it's like intuitively, you've already learned how to have great partnerships, whether that's partnerships in the workplace or partnerships in your love life. Now, this doesn't mean that you're meant in this life to end up alone, but it does mean if you want to succeed in your career, you need to step out from behind a business partnership, or you have to learn how to not be so codependent in a relationship. So you really want to learn how to love yourself, put yourself first, and basically not to be dependent upon another person for your happiness. On to the next house, which is house number 2. In this life, you're moving away. It's as if you already are in touch with your intuitive sense, your spiritual side. You already got the intuition part down. So now you're using your intuition for material gain. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll be rich. Let's hope it does mean that. But in some way, it's all about focused on making that money, so you can have that life and those material things, just those material nice items that you want to have in your life to live a comfortable lifestyle. Because honestly, you've you're intuitive. So you're going to take your intuition, bring it into the workplace to make you some money some way, somehow, so you can buy those things and be comfortable. So you can imagine how having a partner whose North Node is also in the second house could be really great for you to have a really abundant lifestyle. House number 3 is communication. Now, this one's a little tough because the first 6 houses are almost like the babies of the zodiac. So there's a lot to learn. So even though you're a communicator on a smaller scale. In this life, you're meant to kind of, you've already figured out life's purpose and been a guru before. You might already know multiple languages, but you're going to use that to have, better communication on a intimate level with your friends. And, it doesn't mean that you won't broadcast publicly. You would do really well in this life to move away from going out there and using your wisdom for teaching, to actually be a better listener, a great communicator. And you might put it to use in a podcast or on YouTube or social media, something of that nature. You could be a teacher, anything of that nature that comes to communication. Just more, it's a little bit more about you being a student in the communication aspect than it is a teacher. Because when we get to the house number 9, you'll see that how it reflects kind of the opposite. Okay, house number 4. This is the house of the matriarch. If you don't know what matriarch is, this is the mother. This is the sign of Cancer. It's all about your home, and it's caretaking, it's nurturing. It doesn't mean you won't have a career, but you're going to move away from what you've already known, whether it's in a past life or whether you don't believe in that and you just intuitively are born with a sense of taking care of others, like as the breadwinner, as the patriarch, because this is the opposite of the patriarch. So later in your life, you're going to find yourself in a world of nurturing, caretaking. So if that's somehow in your business, it might be that you have kids and you are in charge at home, or it could be that you choose somebody else to be a breadwinner, or that when you go out to make money, you do it in a nurturing way, or a nurturing, career world, whether that's nursing or taking care of animals, something of that nature. But you will use your nurturing skills in this lifetime to somehow be the matriarch. And you may have a lesson to learn. It may be that you get older, you end up caretaking for a parent or a loved one. That could be a lesson that you have to learn. So that's it for that house number 4. On to house number 5. This is all about being in the spotlight. You've already intuitively been a humanitarian, all about your community. People find you likable, but now you're taking that and you're turning it into people who watch you. You're in the spotlight. You can use your skill set to entertain others. That the house of 5 is about, in a way, it's about, creating and fun and entertainment. So you might want other people, you might have like a diva personality, like royalty, like others serve you because you always were in service to others in your past life, or just somehow as a young adult, you already had the humanitarian side of you and you felt naturally like you cared, you like your heart, you wear it on your sleeve. And now it's about, hey, let others show how much they care about me and love my personality so I can be in the spotlight. So this is a great house in your North Node to just maybe become famous. Very possible. House number 6, mental. You already have the emotional side down. So now you're using your mental to basically hone in on your craft. So whether you have a craft or something of that nature, you're going to use your creative mental skills to do something visionary or towards your craft. It's all about, it's supposed to be the Virgo house, which is more practical. But if that's not your sign, if your house doesn't fall in the Virgo sign, mental doesn't have to be necessarily practical and analytical like a Virgo, but it is using that brain power. You've already figured out, you already have a high EQ, if you've heard of that, emotional quotient. It's like an IQ, but you're smart with people, you're smart emotionally, you read people well. So now it's all about taking your mental skills, mixing it with your people, your emotional skills, your high EQ, and creating something possibly big, possibly not so big. Maybe you use your intellect as a mechanic or physically, because it can be physical too. You might have a physical skill that mixed with your intelligence helps you be a great, business creator of some sort. And the 7th house, partnership. As you can see here, the opposite is independence. That would be your south node. So in this life, you've already stood out and put yourself first. Now you're going to learn how to partner up with somebody, whether that's in the career space or whether that's in your love life. You are all about learning how to work with a partner. And this is a very good place to have a north node to be married. More than likely, you'll end up, married in this type of situation. And if you're not, then you're very likely to start a business with a business partner. So that's great for that. And if you can mix love and business together, hey, that would be like taking the cake. All right, 8th house. As you can see, 2nd house was material gain. So this would be your south node. If your north node is in the 8th house, then this is all about, you already have somehow gained knowledge about how to get material things, but you're not as intuitive. So there may be a lesson to learn materially. It doesn't necessarily mean that like the universe is going to take away everything that you've gained materially, but for some reason in this life, you're meant to learn and tap into your intuition and have some power and transformation, something transformative that will make you realize material gain doesn't mean as much as spiritual growth. So you're going to have something happen in your world that transforms the way you look at life and realize that abundance isn't just about material. Abundance is about people that you love, that home is where the heart is, that what you do for a career isn't all about making so much gobs and gobs of money, but more about fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment. And we have the next house, which is the 9th house. This is the only one where it's really difficult because these aren't opposites. So that's why when I brought up 3rd house as communication, I didn't want to put that this house, the opposite would be lack of communication. That wouldn't make sense. It's more so that the communication that you already know and dealing with people in the 2nd house, you've already learned that, how to deal with people and communicate and close friends and family. And now it's that house represents like learning foreign languages, gaining more wisdom. So even though you're learning as a student in the 2nd house, the 3rd house, in the 9th house, it's more about taking what you learned and teaching it. but you still have more to learn. You've just become more wise, and you're more interested in learning life's purpose than you are about communicating and listening to and learning from people. You want to learn through experience, through traveling, foreign travel, foreign people, languages. How can I learn more about life and the perspective of people outside of my, my bubble, or just even whatever country you live in? How can I learn more and become a guru like a Gandhi or a Buddha who walked the earth and figured out their life's purpose, but was able to leave an impact and a legacy for others. So, it may not be on this, grand end scale of things, but in some way you will end up being a teacher that will leave an impact on a community. And in this life, you might like hang stuff up and decide, I want to travel the world. I want to, be a free spirit. You may want to break out of a marriage if you get married. There's a lot of things possible in this house, but you will become very wise if your north node is in the ninth house. Okay, and so the 10th house is the patriarch, obviously the opposite of the matriarch. So you've already have that caretaking, natural, nurturing ability. And so you are all about your career and being the patriarch, like what I say goes, having a moral authority, being that person who is the breadwinner, and it's focused on your career. You may, in a partnership, be that one who brings home the bacon, quote unquote. So you will be in the spotlight in your career to some, capacity versus, the spotlight in the fifth house being more like on an entertainment scale and in the spotlight as like famous. You're more of in the spotlight in your career. You'll probably be a great leader, very great leader, if your north node is in the 10th house. But you might not figure this out until, midlife. That might start happening for you midlife. It may not happen in the beginning because from a young age, you were focused on caretaking for siblings or caretaking for parents, or who knows, or maybe that was more of your interest back then, and or from a past life. However this relates to you, I would love to kind of hear if you believe in past lives. Just kind of let me know, because I don't know how I feel about past lives, but I do feel like my north node speaks to me in a great way, because I've been learning a lot of lessons myself, and I'm over 40. So it's really, I'm seeing this kind of play out in my life, and I would love to hear if you feel like this relates to you. All right, we're almost done. 11th house, community. So the opposite, south node, spotlight, like I had just brought up. Now, instead, you might have been royalty in your past life, or from a young age, you treated like royalty, like a princess, like you already have that entertainer personality. People like you, or they love you and hate you. It's like there's no in between. You've already got that part down. And now, as you move into later in your life, you're learning about being more of a humanitarian, serving others rather than being catered to. You might want to retire and settle into a community amongst friends, or you may want to do some humanitarian pursuits. That's what the 11th house is all about. And you can do some very charitable, great things with the north node in the 11th house. But again, look to the sign for more information. Generally, this is an Aquarius house, but your sign will be indicative of really how extreme we mean when we mean humanitarian or community for your north node. And finally, we're down to the last one, the 12th house, opposite. Now, this is kind of like, I made this a little too simplified, emotional versus mental, because these are the opposite here, south node. You're already smart. You already have a high IQ. Now you're learning how to kind of have a high EQ, learn how to intuitively understand people and get along with others. And it's a little bit more than that, because the Virgo house, the sixth house, um, because you're probably putting something out there in your craft. Here it's more about emotional inner peace. So this is the 12th house, as you can imagine, is like the wise one. It's that person who already has the wisdom, and now all you care about is inner peace, living in the present. To an extreme, this house could be learning a lesson of imprisonment. I mean, it's very possible. um, I don't know if some of you watching this have that ability to be taken to prison for any reason, but some people with a north node in the 12th house, they're already wise, but there may be a situation where it's like, I've had to learn a really huge lesson so that I realize what it means to have inner peace. And the only way I'm going to find peace and happiness is with doing the internal work. So, in some way, you're going to maybe have a lesson, or you're just the old soul of the group. So it doesn't mean you're going to go to prison, but I'm just saying what I've learned is the 12th house to an extreme can have uh, that imprisonment aspect to it. It can be considered a bad house. But hopefully none of you listening, this is part of the issue. Usually it's that you are an old soul, you're very wise, you've done it all, and now you're just basically finding that inner wisdom and that emotional space of peace and presence on a day-to-day basis, and that you don't necessarily need others to fulfill you. What's going to fulfill you is having that inner peace for yourself. So I don't know how many of you dropped off. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And I know I simplified it a little too easily, but I think that's the best way to get started so that you can have a bit of an understanding of what your purpose is here. But again, I would tune into the midheaven so you could get a little more understanding of where you're meant to be in your career space. All right, I look forward to doing more readings. I appreciate any feedback you have. Thank you.